Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's the FPL Pundit here. And how did your game week go? Game week 6 was awesome for me. And I know a lot of managers might actually be pissed with the way things went in game week 6. Ronaldo blanked and all the likes. There were a lot of ups and downs for the game week. But game week 6 is over now, so we have to just move on and plan ahead of game week 7. So if you're new to my channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the post notification icon so that anytime I post a new content you are going to be notified. And speaking of new content, I just made my game week review video, and if you've not watched that video, please go watch that video. I will drop the links in the description, or you'll see it somewhere at the end screen or up here. So watch that my game week review video to understand how my game week went and what are the things I have in mind ahead of game week 7. So in this particular video, I know a lot of us are trying to plan ahead of game week 7 already. We're trying to make transfer plans. A lot of players will be going out of our team, a lot of players will be coming into our team, and a lot of us will be wildcarding as well. So this particular video is dedicated to help you with your transfer plans for game week 7. So I'm going to be giving you tips on players to buy, sell and hold. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video guys. So if you're trying to get a defender for game week 7, the defender I recommend you get is Azpilicueta. Azpilicueta has the same fixture ahead with the likes of Alonso and Rudiger, who are currently the most transferred in players ahead of game week 7. So for you to go ahead in the Fantasy Premier League, it is very important for you to look different and look beyond what other managers are currently doing. Despite I know Azpilicueta is quite expensive, is 6 million, but I think is a player you should actually consider bringing into your team instead of Alonso or Rudiger. But if you have, most especially if you have Alonso already, just make sure you bring in Azpilicueta alongside Alonso. But if you don't have Alonso already, you can bring in Alonso, then try to bring in another Chelsea defender. I actually highly recommend you have 2 Chelsea defenders in your team. There's also one more thing I want you to understand about buying Azpilicueta. I am not exactly sure about Reece James, because Reece James will have been my pick, but Reece James is, so far as we know, injured until otherwise stated. So until then, you can actually stick to the news to know whether Reece James is going to be available in game week 7 or not. So if Reece James is going to be available in game week 7, I recommend you buy Reece James instead of buying Azpilicueta. But if Reece James is not going to be available, I recommend you buy Azpilicueta. And the major reason why I've recommended this player is because of the positional play coming ahead of the game weeks. If Reece James is not going to be available, it is obvious that Azpilicueta is one that is going to be playing in the right wing back for Chelsea. But if Reece James is available, Reece James is going to be the one to fill that position, while Azpilicueta goes back to the centre back position. So moving on to the player you should sell, I don't have Luke Shaw exactly, but I know a lot of managers have Luke Shaw, and currently is the most transferred out player in Fantasy Premier League, and I think he's the only defender I recommend everyone transfer out ahead of the coming game weeks. If you look at the fixture difficulty ranking, it's actually quite high, playing Everton, Leicester City, Liverpool and Tottenham straight in the next 4 game weeks. So if you have Luke Shaw, transfer out Luke Shaw and look to other players like I've just mentioned, Azpilicueta or Reece James. So a lot of managers too should also try to be patient with Tottenham players, as I think that ahead of the coming game weeks they will try to get their rhythm back despite losing 3 matches in a row. So now the player I recommend you hold if you have this player already is Reguilon. Try to hold Reguilon as long as possible, and don't run out of patience on Reguilon, because so far, despite the fact that they concede goals, he's still able to give points from assists, as we can see. So next on the list, we have the midfielders I think you should buy, hold and sell, and the midfielder I'm recommending you get this game week is Kovacic. Kovacic is the only player on Chelsea that has the most points in the Fantasy Premier League, ahead of the likes of Havertz and Mount. Kovacic so far has a total of 31 points and is the only Chelsea player to have this amount of points from the midfield position. And I've been watching Chelsea games so far, and I've also noticed that Kovacic has been more involved in Chelsea's attack, and his link-up play with Lukaku has been quite awesome. So looking ahead, I think more of this is going to come. And looking at the fixture difficulty ranking, Chelsea is going to be playing Southampton, Brentford, Norwich and Newcastle in the next 4 game weeks, and I don't think Kovacic is going to just end up not having many points in the coming game week, since he's now more involved in the attack and has virtually played every game for Chelsea this season, you would see that he's going to keep up the top form and he's going to either score or keep assisting Lukaku. So far, he has scored just 1 goal this season and he has a total of 3 assists. And I think his stats for the midfield so far is the best among the midfielders that Chelsea have. So moving on to the player I think you should sell, I think you should sell Jack Grealish. Now, the reason why I think you should sell Jack Grealish is not exactly because of the fixtures ahead, because the fixtures ahead actually look good and promising. But Manchester City is a team that actually deals with a lot of rotation, and although Jack Grealish has played every match so far this season, that's even more fact why I think you should actually transfer this player out, because despite the amount of matches he has played this season, he has only managed a total of 24 points. And he hasn't scored or assisted in the last 3 game weeks. The last time we saw Jack Grealish did something well in the Premier League was in the Fantasy Premier League was in game week 3, where he had an assist against Arsenal. So I think you sell Jack Grealish, and because of his price also is 8 million, there are other players out there which you can bring into the team, like Sam, like Malang Sarr, like Andros Townsend, like Doucouré. These players over the game weeks have been awesome and they are in actually good form. So another player I think that you should hold and not sell if you have this player is Son. A lot of managers are not patient with Son, especially Tottenham players are running out of patience with Tottenham players because of how they've dropped their form and they've been losing games ahead. Although the games ahead for them aren't so difficult, the next 2 fixtures look promising, but the next 2 fixtures after then might actually be the problem. But despite that, I think you should hold Son, because through the rough times of Spurs, Son has still been able to get a few points here and there, scoring a total of 32 points so far this season. I have Son and I'm going to be keeping Son in my team. He has scored a total of 3 goals, no assists so far this season. So don't run out of patience with Son and try to make sure that you keep Son in your team, because the coming game weeks we could actually see him do double figures, and if you have him and sell him out, you might actually regret it. So moving on to the forward, guys, the striker I think you should get for your Fantasy Premier League is Joshua King. Joshua King is just cost about 5.5 million. The fixture ahead don't exactly look very easy or promising, but with the way Watford has been so far, I think they should be able to get a few points from these matches. But why did I actually suggest you buy Joshua King? Joshua King is just 5.5 million, and so far he has been coming up this season, and in game week 5 most especially, he was able to get 10 points. That was having 2 assists, and in the last game week also he got 2 assists. So it is evident that Joshua King has been instrumental to Watford, helping Sarr score goals, Ismaila Sarr score his goals. And moving forward, I think Joshua King is going to be more instrumental to this team, and very soon he could even start getting goals, because if you look at the previous seasons, Joshua King is one of the best players in the Fantasy Premier League. In the history of Fantasy Premier League, he has been very consistent over time. Just before Bournemouth, when he was still at Bournemouth, before they went back to relegation. Although I think he was missing throughout last season, probably due to an injury. I wasn't sure about that, but now he's back with Watford and he has been playing. He has been playing so far. The last 2 matches he played complete 90 minutes, and he got 15 points from the last 2 matches that he played. So he has a total of 19 points. And you should actually look to get this player. He hasn't scored any goals so far, though. He has 3 assists, as you can see. But against Leeds, I think Watford has been able to at least get goals in almost every match they've played this season. So coming up against Leeds, they will probably be able to get 1 goal or even 2 more goals. And Joshua King, being a starter, is soon to actually score. It's just 5.5 million. So even if it doesn't exactly give you double figures, you wouldn't be much bothered, because you even have enough funds to sign another premium striker to your team. So as you're considering buying Joshua King, if you're the type that has Danny Ings in your team, I think you should start transferring out Danny Ings from your team recently. And here is the reason why. Danny Ings hasn't scored since game week 2. So from game week 3, 4, 5, 6, and we are going to the 7th game week, Danny Ings hasn't scored a goal. Although he has just 2 assists from the last game week, and game week 3 he has another 1 assist as at that time. But currently Danny Ings hasn't. The last time Danny Ings was able to get a goal was in the 1st game week and the 2nd game week, and a lot of managers who have this guy would start running impatient, and some people might not even start paying attention to him because of other players. So he's owned by about 18.7% of managers, and that is quite a lot of managers who own Danny Ings. So I think looking at his fixture ahead, he's going to be playing Tottenham this weekend. Coming up after Tottenham is Wolves, then Arsenal, then West Ham United. And at 7.9 million, I think there are better options out there that can actually fill up your squad and give you good points. So I think Danny Ings should actually be sold by managers. So if you have Danny Ings, consider selling him and bringing in another manager. I also noticed something ahead of game week 7 that most managers have started transferring out Ronaldo, and that is actually very quick. A lot of managers shouldn't actually run out of patience with owning Ronaldo. I don't own Ronaldo, but if you own Ronaldo, I think you should keep Ronaldo. The fixture difficulty ranking for Ronaldo doesn't exactly matter because he can score against anybody. We have Everton coming up, we have Leicester City coming up, we have Liverpool coming up, and we have Tottenham coming up. But if you really want to sell Ronaldo, just make sure you are replacing him with the likes of Lukaku and Antonio. But I also think that looking at the most bought players so far in the game week, we see that Lukaku is actually one of the most bought player ahead of game week 7. So most likely managers who have Ronaldo are transferring out Ronaldo to buy Lukaku because of the fixture difficulty ranking. But I actually think that both players can coexist in your team. You can have Lukaku and still have Ronaldo. Myself, I'm also trying to get Ronaldo, but I'm just not ready to get Ronaldo yet. So keep Ronaldo in your team if you have him. Hold him tight. If you don't have Ronaldo, you don't necessarily have to go and buy him. Just make sure you have one premium striker. And if you have Lukaku and Ronaldo, don't think of selling both players. Just keep them and hold them tight. So that is that, guys, about my transfer tips for you ahead of game week 7. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, share with your friends, turn on the post notification icon, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'll catch you right in the next one, guys. Peace.